Welcome to Season 3 of the United by Coffee podcast, where our mission is to unite the world through coffee. I'm Christy Ross with my co-host and coffee enthusiast, Mr. Greg Hess.
Hey, Christy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I could be better. I ran out of coffee this morning, which, the great irony of being on a coffee podcast and not having any coffee around my house. And so I would say I didn't start out quite in my stride, and I did find some instant coffee in my cupboard. So I guess I'm kind of freaking out. Is that
I can't remember last time I had instant coffee. But Greg, I know someone who can send you some.
I know. This is sort of an embarrassing way to start a coffee podcast, and I will just tell our listeners, don't worry about instant coffee. There's not a lot there right now, I would say.
Oh my God. Well, I got to get you on a subscription so that never happens again.
Very good plug, and I need to do that for sure.
There we go. Well, we do have somebody today that could also supply coffee to you. Our guest today is Francisco Lacayo, General Manager of L53 Estates out of Nicaragua. He graduated from Purdue University with a degree in industrial management and a minor in manufacturing, in addition to earning an international MBA. His father purchased Finca Buenos Aires in 1998, which Francisco visited when he was younger. It was an operation that grew from only 7 hectares of coffee to over 80, which equates to about 200 acres. Then let's fast forward to now. For the past decade, he has been the general manager of L53 Estates. Welcome, Francisco. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, how are you, Christy? Thank you for the introduction.
I would love to have you share with us like a little bit of your background, like where you grew up, talk a little bit about your upbringing and your life before coffee.
Well, as you mentioned, I grew up in Nicaragua, born and raised. Had the opportunity to go to ANS, American Nicaraguan School. After graduation I did my undergrad in Purdue University. Right after that, moved down to Miami and had the opportunity to work in the airline industry as a business analyst. So nothing to do with coffee. It was always in my plans that before coming back home, I definitely want to have all my education as far ahead on the line done. So I decided to move to Madrid and did an international MBA in Instituto de Empresa. And right after that, moved back to Nicaragua in 2014. When I came back to Nicaragua, we saw the opportunity and he asked me, look, do you want us to buy a coffee farm? But I'm not working for the farms anymore, you will. So are you interested or not? I was like, why not? It's an opportunity.
That's so great. And so it sounds like you had a lot of options in terms of what type of farming you wanted to do. What about coffee has been so interesting and exciting to you?
Well, definitely. Yes, there is a lot of opportunities and different ways of producing coffee. So what we first did is visit as much farms in Nicaragua as possible with different friends, travel Colombia, Brazil to kind of understand what was the best practices in coffee. But things have changed in terms of production because it's definitely something that I've learned as an agronomist. We can control probably 10% of what happens. The rest 90% is just weather. And there's no irrigation here, you're in the mountains, and we had a very bad weather last year, and even the rainy season actually just started a couple of weeks ago here. So out during the summer was quite intense. It can be very unexpected. You're never prepared for the unexpected. It's very hard, because weather you don't know. You can see the prognostics and everything happen. You see what's happening in the U.S. with the weather is crazy. Same here. So even if you get prepared, you're really not ready for it. So. And it makes it fun, though. It makes it different for the coffee industry because once you plant a coffee tree, you want it there for the next 20, 25 years producing. So you always got to be thinking differently. You're always learning. In the coffee industry, there's always something new, something different happening. You can do the same processes year over year, and your coffee will always be different. So that makes it quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so you just said coffee trees for 25 years. So what and I'm fairly new to coffee and Greg's along the way here to learn as well. And so what I've heard is you plant a coffee tree and it takes about 4 years before it actually produces coffee fruit. So is the lifespan basically producing fruit from 4 years to 20 or 25? Like what is the average?
No, so we definitely, as a coffee tree, what happens, it will start producing around 3 to 4 years after you plant it, depending on how you decide to do your plantations. If you do shade grown, definitely will take longer because you need to stress out the coffee tree in order for it to produce. So if you have it under shade, it won't stress as much. So that's one of the things that you have to decide on how you're going to produce the coffee. And definitely that the coffee tree goes to an age around 8 to 9 years which is only producing on the top part. So you need to do a pruning system. And there's tons of pruning system that you can decide on what to do. There's not a pruning system better than other. It's depend on how you financially want it to be in terms of how much you want to invest. We as a producer, what we did is we follow a pruning system that is based out of having in the same tree that we planted. Once we pruned it for the first time, what we're expecting is to have different trees of different ages. Like usually in the plantain crops, what you do, you have grandfather, father, and son. Once a grandfather produces, you take it out, but the father is right there ready to produce. So that's like a simple way of doing it. So what we do is that we enter the 100% of the coffee production plants and prune them every year, but we're not putting them to zero. We're just taking the part of the plant that already produces. So that keeps it more stable. The yields curve that we usually goes up and down a lot, you shrink it a little bit, so it moves around to 15 to 20% the most. So it helps you that you have production all year round, every year, and you gotta make here in Nicaragua, for example, you gotta make your farm very attractive for pickers. So the more coffee there is for them to pick, that the easier it's gonna be for you to get pickers.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, one of the things I mentioned in the introduction was about your dad purchasing, Finca Buenos Aires in 1998, right? So, what would you say as, and you were pretty young then. I think you said you were 5.
No, it was in 94. I'm 30. I was born in 87. He bought the first farm La Cumplida in 1994, but for a couple of years he was partner there, and then officially became by himself a producer in 98.
Got it. Okay, got it. Well, so you observed a lot though as a young boy, young man, and are you able to sort of wrap your arms around like sort of what some of the actions were that your father took that you could attribute to the success of the growth of that farm? And did you take some of those learnings and apply it to what you're doing now?
Definitely, there's one thing that I'll contribute the most, and it's probably doesn't have to do with the farming or agribusiness sector, but value of our word when we do the business. The most important thing in the coffee industry, the coffee is a relationship industry. That's it. That's the most important thing about coffee is that you give your word to a person that you're selling in a specific quality of coffee, and that you are actually providing them that coffee that you're telling them, right? So and it's a trust issue. The person who is buying the coffee from you, even if you send them sample, is trusting you with your word that you're actually providing that type of coffee. So one of the most important things that I've learned throughout the years in the coffee industry is that your word and the relationship that you make with people is what you value the most. And that goes from the relationship you make with the people that work in the farms all the way to the people you sell it to. And that goes through all the chain. If I do a futures contract and if the price is going to $3 and I'm at 180, I gave my word that I'm gonna go and give that coffee at 180 no matter what happens. And that's what makes you stable throughout the years.
What an amazing value to have. And I think, in the long term, that must be such an amazing feeling to have people who are probably really dedicated to working for you because you're leading with that value, which I think is fantastic. You acquired Finca, is it pronounced Santa Marta or in 2015? And that's an additional project with your father. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what were some of the key decisions that you both made along the way to add a second operation to your portfolio? Because it sounds like a first operation is already a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was more like an opportunity. I came to Nicaragua. As I mentioned, my dad he's also a peanut producer. So we have other farms. So the peanut production area got reduced to around 40%. So he was like, I'm reducing this area. If you want to join me on the adventure of doing coffee, he was already becoming partner at the mill of Beneficio La Providencia. So he was, we had to push in more coffee to the mill in order for it to be more, more coffee for it, more stable on its incomes and yields. That was like, for me, it was like an opportunity to do a business, 50-50 with my dad. He just told me, you're going to go there, work, be at the farm, and you just show me the papers and the numbers, I'll be here.
So how many different farms do you have under the L53 Estates umbrella? Like how many farms total?
And no, L53 umbrella, we're mainly focusing on the coffee. So we have these two farms, Buenos Aires and Santa Marta, under the umbrella. I'm always like looking or trying to figure out if there's a possibility of buying another one, but definitely a smaller farm on a different area, different altitudes, just looking for higher quality coffees. But I don't know, things have been not that easy, especially with the weather. It was a tough year for the weather because of the weather. So right now it's two farms, but L53 basically it's also my export company. So I sell direct. So I sell my farms, but I also give the service to any other friends or coffee producers if they want to export their coffee. So I connect them with the same traders or roasters and try to help them have access to better prices.
Where did the name L53 Estates come from then?
It's easy. The L for my last name, Lacayo, and
Uh-huh.
53 is the year my dad was born.
Oh, there you go. I
I
love
will
that.
always remember his birthday now.
Yes. how old he is. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
All these- yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the types of coffee that you're making or that you're growing rather at L53?
Okay. So as I mentioned before, we started thinking about higher yields production. So we were looking for varieties that were going to give us the highest yield as possible. At that moment, we had access mainly to Costa Rica 95. It's a variety developed in Costa Rica. So at this moment, I think 50% of the area it's planted with Costa Rica 95. Then we introduced Parainema, or known as a Sarchimor. Good yield, but better copper quality. And then we just been adding like a little bit of catuais and then araras, ovatas, maragojipes. And the idea of having these varietals in our farm is just we are testing them. If I decided I want to reduce Costa Rica 95 to 30%, that extra 20%, I need to know what I'm going to put. So we test different varieties on the property in order to have an idea of how they're going to behave.
One of your key value propositions is traceability and quality separation, right? So talk about that a little bit and how that impacts everybody sort of along the value chain.
So for example, the idea of traceability that we have planted is that every single lot in the farm has it's separated by variety. So when we are harvesting the coffee, we at the wet mill, which is at the farm in this case in Nicaragua, we process it independently. We process it by variety. We classify it in terms of quality when it comes out of the wet mill, and we ship it we take it all the way every morning at 6 a.m. to La Providencia, and it's cupped and it's processed also independently. So we set it to dry, and the idea of this is when I'm setting up a container, I know exactly which lot I am using to process that coffee to do that container, and I can trace it all the way back to the day it was actually harvested. But it helped me because there's some things we have clients ask me for a single variety. So I'm 100% sure that I can give them a single variety. Or if they ask me for, I want a coffee that is in this specific type of body or cupping quality, and I can tell them, look, I'm building a blend. This is the blend that you have. This is the composition of the blend. And probably that type of coffee is going to work for them. It's going to sell if they're going to sell them as a single origin or state farm. So it allows me to have better access to different type of clients or a wider opportunity offers that I can give to different clients. And clients wants to, consumers or roasters, they want to be able to trace that coffee all the way back to the farms. And that's part of the idea of having that traceability. Even if I am only selling mainly mainstream, I still want to have that traceability.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I never thought about it being both traceability being really important to the end consumer, obviously, but also just it sounds like organizationally it's so important to you, so you know exactly what you have, where it's going, when you have it. Just keeping track of all your products sounds like an enormous job in and of itself.
Yeah, and sometimes we even things happen. You got cups that are not good for exporting, even if it's the quality is right. You got a phenol or fungicide taste or moldy taste. So we classify every single time we're actually doing a cupping before it's dry. We're gonna take it up from the patios to a warehouse. It's cupped, and if the cupping is off, we will put it even in a separate area. You start classifying the coffee by variety, by cupping, by if it's phenol, not phenol, everything. So you have also that makes us make sure that we don't ship any damaged coffee to our traders.
And are you saying phenol?
Yeah,
F-E-N. Oh, like that's a taste that can come out, and that's considered like a bad, not or not.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of taste that can come up in a bad cup. So as a seller, as an exporter, I want to make sure that my clients won't be getting any of this.
You have a young and growing family, and I know that coffee is such a part of your family tradition. How do you integrate family life into it sounds like is really creating an understanding of not only the industry but of relationships and stewardship of the environment and personal relationships, like the people that work for you. How do you integrate some of those things into your family life?
Well, I got two young girls, quite young, 3.5, and my youngest is gonna be 2
So
soon.
they're not drinking coffee quite yet.
Well, not really, but they do. They every single morning since they see me and the mom drink coffee, they get a tiny cup and we put in milk. So they say they're drinking coffee every day. We love it. And they sit and they say they're drinking coffee but they're actually drinking milk. So they're still quite young. But one of the things my wife and I value the most is what we have access to here in Nicaragua. We are very lucky. The quality of life we have here, we're fortunate. So what we try to do, since I go a lot to the farms and see all this poverty and everything, is we try to make sure that they understand to value what they have and how they have, and not just what they have, is to value the importance of the people that actually help us have what we have, and that we are all equals. We want them to feel like if we take them to the farm and they're playing with kids on the farm, let them play with them. They're just kids. There's no difference in cultural and economical status. So for us, that value, we want to bring them that all the way until they grow and they have their by themselves. But it's very important to understand that it's not about money or what class you are, or if you have access or not. We're all the same here.
I couldn't agree more. It is so important to lead by example, meaning that your family seeing how you treat others and just showing that on a day-to-day basis. That's what's going to matter, and that's what they're going to pick up, right? So I think that's fabulous. So a quick question on now looking into the future. Like, where do you see your operation, let's say, in 10 to 15 years from now?
I definitely feel and hope I can make a lot of changes, not just in the farms, but mainly in the community where the farms are. Um, where I see myself in 10 years, I see mainly I feel like I can see more difference in the farms than in myself. I want to try to invest as much or give back as much as I can to the farms, just because I want to be there for the next 30, 40 years, not just 10 years. So I want people to be there and feel happy that they have the opportunity, that they work for a great farm. Um, Not sure if I'm going to have more farms. Probably I will. But probably what I want to have is more people with the same values that I have.
If there is a thing that you could change about the coffee industry at large, what would it be?
Being the coffee a commodity, come on, we're the biggest gamblers out here. We're gambling ourselves every day. You see coffee prices go 40 cents and then coming down 60 cents, and definitely to have the possibilities to be out of that of the market and having more stable prices. Definitely, it's a both ways. If prices go quite high, but the end consumer is gonna pay the high prices, and the producer is probably gonna get a little bit more money. But at the end, it's something about finding that balance in the coffee industry where there's an equality for everybody. Like you're paying the right price for your cup of coffee every morning, but at the end, also the picker that is harvesting that coffee sherry at the fields and the farms, it's also getting a decent salary. So finding that right balance in this industry is very tough, especially being a commodity. So I will really hope to see coffee on a more stable market. If we be out of the commodity, move more on a flat price and just adjusting it in terms of markets and governance around the world, I think would make it a little bit easier.
I totally agree with you. And Francisco, I know you don't know my background as much, but I come from the trading industry for over 30 years, options and futures. And so totally I respect and agree with you tenfold on just making the coffee industry more stable, especially when I think about, yes, the end customer, but I'm really more concerned about the producers, right? And the pickers at the end of the day, just making sure that they get their fair share. I think that's so critical. What is your favorite part about being in the coffee industry?
Having a great cup of coffee every day. That's what I love the most. I won't lie to you. I love my coffee. Well,
I'm right there with you.
Not just mine, a great cup of coffee. I love it.
Yes.
Anytime. I usually, we do the coffee just in general. I love the community. The community. I'm a people's person. Relationship. It's what makes me what I am. So to have as many friends and and have friends and coffee, it's just a great combination.
Do you have a stat or a fun fact that would like to share that maybe most coffee consumers don't know? Maybe it's even about Nicaraguan coffee or your production. Does anything ring a bell?
I've learned here in Nicaragua and the coffee industry that the coffee producers are quite loyal, in terms of when they're selling your coffee to, or you're giving the word to you, or how to do business. Uh, and it gets me back to the same basis, relationship. And I love to see Nicaragua growing. I know Mercom did a great job placing out there in Nicaragua, giving us the possibility to do futures 3 years ahead. Something that for our neighbor countries, usually they sell back to back. So that in an analytical way, it allows me to have more stability because I can actually do futures and so at a price where I know I'm gonna at least break even and play a little bit more less in a commodity world. So
that's the perfect segue into our very quick, I'll say rapid round of questions called our U3 top three. So these are very brief answers. Your coffee drink of choice: black, latte, hot, cold, specific origin or wash?
I'll only drink black coffee or Americano. Definitely, if you're gonna have a good cup of coffee, you wanna taste it how it is. No sugar, no milk. And since I'm a producer, I usually do quite a couple of tests at the farms. Some natural, some anaerobics, and I usually keep the best for my consumption.
There you go. Because I've heard the opposite, where producers will keep the some of the lower grade, right, and sell. Yeah, I love that though. You should appreciate.
I keep the best for myself.
Yeah, you put a lot of work into that coffee. You need to keep some of it. Yeah.
And of course, all the family members that have been becoming good drinkers, now I have to supply. I think I give away like 10 quintals, 1,000 pounds of roasted coffee every year to families and friends.
How do I get on that list?
Right.
Yeah.
Send me your FedEx account.
Okay, you got it.
Perfect. Okay, and Francisco, how many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
I'll say this is my second one, and it's 11 a.m. So usually I drink in the morning. I go say almost 2 cups, a full Chemex, the big ones, with half and half with my wife, and I'll probably have one more before 4 p.m. So around 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day.
Big cups, though. Big cups.
Big cups, yes. This is 1 cup for me.
That might count for 2.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us, Chico. Can we find out where should people go to find out more about what L53 is up to, a website or social media or anything like that?
I do have a website. It's www.l53states.com, and they can learn a little bit about both of the farms, the mill, and what varieties we have there, opportunities or things we're doing with World Vision, helping young kids during the harvest season. So a very general information of what we do. I do have an Instagram, but I'm not that quite good at it, which is also at L53 States.
Francisco, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And actually, I should call you Chico now because we're friends. I feel connected. So, but we appreciate your time and love your story. So thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
No, thank you, Christy and Greg, for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. And thanks to our followers as well. Of course, we want to hear from you. You can always reach out to us at connect@u3coffee.com or just in the comments with your guest recommendations, your own coffee tips and tricks. And of course, always let us know what coffee you're drinking.
And again, that is connect@u3coffee.com, or head to the letter U, the number 3, coffee.com, where you can learn, connect, and explore the wonderful world of coffee. We'll see you next time.